Salibonani Ibizolaming Muwain Mube Ngilapa Zurich, and we are listening to Macska Limmatban.
Yeah, hi guys.
Hello.
We were promising for a long time that we're gonna come up with a second English episode.
And here we are.
Yeah.
With me.
With Wayne. Hi Wayne.
Hi.
Hi.
And with Victor.
Hello.
And me, Daniel. We're not used to say our names. We are actually. I was just thinking today as I edited this week's episode that we are not really telling our names. I mean, we say each other like, Victor, go and fuck yourself and stuff like this. So the latest, then our listeners realize how we called, but we never introduced ourselves.
Nah.
Which we just changed today.
Should we?
This is the 16th episode.
Going forward, we will.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
In my culture, that's how you always open a conversation.
Yeah, we don't have culture. We are from Eastern Europe.
What culture?
Our culture is the leftover from Western Europe.
Yeah, that's not great, huh?
But the dump there. Yeah.
But
Great.
speaking
Enough
of
with
dumps,
the Hungarian slander.
How you feel today?
I'm feeling good. It's been a decent week work-wise, not too busy. But it's also, I'm a teacher, so it's getting to the end of the term when we're recording this, and I am excited for the holidays. Okay. I don't want to hear all the boos from people. It's like, teachers, you always have time off. But it's hard working with kids.
But it's actually the case.
Yeah, but kids are tough. You don't know until you have them.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty much makes sense. In Hungary, we have a different, it's differently set or like divided, the breaks. We have like a huge, super long summer holiday, like it's like 10 weeks maybe. It's more than 2 months.
It's like 2.5 months, yeah.
Okay, that's a long break.
It's usually mid-June to beginning of September.
Yeah. But therefore, our autumn and spring holiday is quite short. It's just like we have a national holiday in October, so around that time, around the 23rd, we have one.
It's usually like a week or so.
Not that much anymore.
And then we have the winter break, which is usually like 2 weeks, I think.
Okay.
Not even. No, lately just really the school just ends right before Christmas. And it starts on the 2nd of January, if it's on a weekday.
Like a week, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a good week, let's say. But if their kids are not lucky and the teachers, then it can be like super tight.
Yeah, I like the spread of how they do it because we are a bilingual school, so we follow the Zurich timetable. And so you have basically every holiday is 2 weeks, except for the summer holiday, which is 5 weeks. And so, and they're parceled out throughout the year. So you get 2 weeks in October, you get 2 weeks December, January, get 2 weeks in February, 2 weeks end of April, and then the summer break. Mm-hmm. So
but I think that's way better.
Definitely piecing
really
it
like
out.
That,
yeah, because 10 weeks in what? I mean, after 3 weeks, you're like, yay, okay, I've done something. But like, who goes on holiday for 10 weeks? Like, teachers don't earn that much.
Well, in Hungary, even less.
Yeah.
So imagine what they feel like when they are just country. I mean, I know many teachers who are just doing some second job that time, so they can earn some money. I mean, it's paid holidays, of course, but they earn so badly that actually it doesn't really belong really to the topic, but it just popped in my mind where I was in Kyrgyzstan. We were doing we were in this tent camp or this yurt camp, and we had like a horseback riding tour, and we were talking with one of the guys who was a teacher. And he's also doing this during the summer. So they also have like a longer summer vacation. It's maybe some Soviet thing actually, or that's how we get it, because all these Eastern European countries.
I'm not sure exactly where it's coming from. It might be something related to agriculture, or also it could be something related to the actual weather in Hungary in the summer, because it's hot. It's like 35, 40 degrees and it's unbearable.
Yeah.
The schools don't have ACs, so at least you can be in the shade, or you can be outside or something.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just popped in my mind that the guy was working with this on this horseback riding thing, and he was telling me like Kyrgyzstan is not. It's even less rich than Hungary, let's say. And what he was collecting money there, because he didn't have to pay basically for anything, he was collecting money. And I was asking like, yeah, what's your dream, or what are you collecting money for? And he was like, yeah, his dream would be to buy in 1 or 2 years a refrigerator. And I'm like, geez, I mean, that's his, and it's not like a new one, like the first one.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a hush. Yeah. Anyway, sorry,
it's kind of an eye opener when you face, or when you realize that other people have very different problems than we do here.
Yeah. I mean, just like coming back to that, what we were saying about like teachers and holidays and the money to travel and stuff. I think I'm talking then more from the international school perspective, which is then, like it's a lot of wealthy expats globe trotting while teaching as well. But one of the reasons that I wanted to also move to Switzerland is because if I was a teacher in South Africa or Zimbabwe, I would have to have found a really, really good school in order to have some kind of lifestyle similar to the one that I would have here. I mean, in South Africa, maybe a bit more easily, but in Zimbabwe, definitely like no chance to have anything even comparable to what I've had here.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same for us from Hungary.
Yeah. After our quite normal, you will get used to it. The detour right in the beginning. But you could get us back to the topic of which we're gonna talk a bit about, probably where you are from.
Because I'm a teacher.
Yeah. But like,
you haven't mentioned that yet.
I was just talking about in 7 minutes about that.
Can you tell us a bit more?
By the way, I work with children.
Okay, we got that. Oh, hero. So you're from Zimbabwe, right?
Yes.
And I think in the first show we have like a lot of Hungarian listeners, or listeners whose mother tongue is Hungarian. Let's put it like this. And maybe some not, but I'm quite sure that the Hungarians does not know much about Zimbabwe. So let's do some. I just put a little bit of informations together, but you're gonna tell the bigger part. So Zimbabwe is 4 times bigger than Hungary, and according to the survey in 2022, it had more or less 15 million people.
When it's located in the south of Africa, so
yes.
Northeast from South Africa,
right? So South Africa is down on the bottom, and then we are one of the countries that's just north of South Africa, and then we've got Mozambique on one side, we've got Botswana and Zambia on another side. We are almost touching with Namibia. But actually, if you zoom in on a map, I know. Okay, yeah, you've also seen that. So and then those are countries that we border. Yeah. But like basically Southern Africa.
But what you touch instead?
Hey,
what is in between these 200 meters?
It's a river, the Zambezi River.
Okay.
So it's because there's like they would need to build a specific bridge in a way, and they just don't have the funds or interest in to make that connection.
Okay. So and your country has 16 official languages. Let's say 15 because I think one of them is the sign language. If I remember right from Wikipedia.
Really? Official. Okay. So I know that there are very many smaller tribes and groups in the country. Like when I think of it in terms of official language, I think of the language that the documents are in. So for example, my Zimbabwe passport is in English, Ndebele, and Shona.
Okay, and which language was your introduction or your welcome?
The
speech?
welcome was Ndebele.
Okay, which is you speak in that area where you're from? Or?
Yes, so that is like if you like simplifying it, in the north of Zimbabwe, or the majority of the north of Zimbabwe, you have like Mashonaland is the province or canton, and there is predominantly Shona. And then in the south of Zimbabwe, like a smaller part of the country, size-wise, is the Matabele land, and that's where the Ndebeles are from. There's also like other smaller groups and stuff scattered in the mix, but those are the two predominant main tribes in the country. And yeah, there's some drama between them.
You call them tribes?
Yeah, I think that's always how it's been referred to when you think of that separation that exists between like these two people groups.
Because if you translate this to Hungarian, it sounds a bit weird or like a bit prehistorical, or I don't know. Just that's why. But I don't even know. Whatever. Go on, Victor.
So what's the
it probably is like very much so, because we were colonized by good old Mother England, and you do know like how they like to refer to many things in a derogatory sense. But yeah, just like with many things on that continent, we absorbed so much of what these outsiders brought, and now it just perpetuates. But people don't even realize why it's being used or how it comes into the mix. So yeah, we call it tribes, probably because that's like what the white guys back then in the day like called and mentioned to us. And then like when we learned from them, we learned that word to describe ourselves, and now it's just a word that we continue to describe ourselves.
Yeah. And what's the drama? What's the tension between these two tribes?
Okay, so hopefully nobody important is going to be listening. So ever since Zimbabwe gained its independence in like 1980, like Mugabe was a former dictator, was pretty much the main dude, even though he only became president in 88. He was prime minister up until then. But yeah, so he is from this majority Ndebele, Shona's party, and the main government party who continue to miraculously win every election that has happened since the history of these elections, in my opinion, often by a landslide victory. And there's definitely no voter intimidation that happens.
No, not at all.
None at all.
Are you not Hungarian by any chance?
Yeah.
I think they get their playbook from some of you guys. I'm pretty sure that there's some of these politicians who, during the liberation struggle, so like the late 70s and stuff, were brought into communist Europe, or a socialist Europe, to learn and be taught these different the art of war. There was a lot of support for these guerrilla groups who were revolting against the supremacy of colonialism, and they got very much support for that.
Right.
And so yeah, the playbook is probably the same, and that's how these guys managed to maintain their power and extend it. And so it wasn't really until I think even coming here and being a few years in Switzerland, where in discussions with my mom, I realized that there has been this very much deliberate undermining of the south of the country with the Ndebele population by the Shona population, because they are the main power, they are the majority, numbers-wise as well. The government is all of them, to the point where any kind of to have a company that trades on the public thing, it needs to have its head office in the capital city. And so this ruling has shut down a lot of industry, the manufacturing and production stuff in Bulawayo. And even now, when you see Bulawayo, which is the second biggest city, and then the capital city Harare could be some parts of it could be in Europe. There's so much happening there. There's so much development there. There's so much going on. And because everything is very centralized there. The other thing, counter side of it, just as an aside, is that when there was political upheaval and all those sorts of things happening, it was mostly isolated to Harare. That was the hotspot. So like in Bulawayo, you'd hear about these things that were happening, but there wasn't really too much going on that was like super violent or super dangerous, like during these times of instability.
What was the actual reason behind it? Why they made these rules?
I guess it is, like to use that word, a tribal mentality of like, we are better than you, and like we don't want to see you rise because then you might come and try to take us. So we are going to, our people are better.
But like, are there major differences between? Okay, the language is different. How different is the language? How different is the culture? How different are the people?
The language, full stop.
That's it.
Just the language. Like, I mean, Shona Zimbabweans and Ndebele Zimbabweans, like, we're all from the same country. Like, we all have the same things and influences and all of that. And it's just like what you speak. Like, I remember, like, we spoke English at home growing up. And so my Ndebele isn't like it's not like fluent. And then I don't really know Shona as well because we never really spoke it. But there's many Shona people who expect Ndebele people to know Shona, but then they don't think that they need to know Ndebele. So like there's this kind of inferiority seen down on it. I remember once going with a friend who was also Zimbabwean when I lived in Bern to some NGO had like a function in Geneva. And we went there and like it was a Zimbabwe-run organization. And I remember meeting some people and they're greeting and they're all just like, uno taura, which means, do you speak in Shona? And then I'd be like, no, I'm from Bulawayo. I'm from the South. We speak in Ndebele. And so often, like, you just like see how people like have this kind of look of like, oh, okay, yeah, like you're from there. And yeah, so there is kind of this rivalry. I think it's not really pushed from the Ndebele side of things. I think it's really much like the Shona side, which just wants to dominate, and yeah, this has filtered through to many things within the country, which is already having its issues in terms of politics, and so.
But what's the ratio of
Ndebele to Shona?
Yeah.
I am not sure of that.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to Google it at a certain point.
Exactly.
Maybe Victor can do. He likes to do that.
Okay.
No.
Unless you have a question.
It just reminded me not to these extremes, but kind of like in Belgium, they have this French and the Belgian speaking parts, and they are also like very much against each other.
Or even like, Transylvanian
you're all
Hungarians.
Belgian. What are you doing? Yeah, but like those people live like Hungarians and Transylvanian Hungarians. We live in different countries.
Oh no, but I mean like compared to Romanians.
But there a lot of times it's not just the language. So a lot of Transylvanian Hungarians don't necessarily speak Romanian.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a difference within the languages and the culture. They follow more like Hungarian traditions, but it's different. It's different from region to region, from people to people. Yeah. But yeah, I mean it's
and they also have
same
a bigger
country, same nation, same everything. So it makes no
makes
sense.
Less sense. Yeah. But it's like we see it in many ways. I mean, even within Hungarians, you can divide them easily, even though they speak the same language and they live in the same country, but with the ideologies.
Yeah, and like I think just like to go on with that, that's exactly what I want to say is that people in power will often use that to pit people against each other, and like the examples that I think of is like, for example, in Skopje in Northern Macedonia, you have like the Muslim side of the city, and then like you have the Orthodox side of the city, and like it's just like it's the same city, like same altered in, but then like there's that separation. Dare I say it? Like the Palestine-Israel divide, which is just like, guys, you've been all living in that same part of the world for a while.
Well, yeah, for a while. Yeah. There have been people who have been there before.
Yeah. Well, we won't even go into
let's not go there.
Yeah, we had a couple of times chance already to talk about it because we talk a lot of politics. I mean, like just a little bit, like an amateur way, let's say. So we deliberately kind of not talk about that because we don't even like. I don't even know what to think. So
I mean, it's hard to in this day and age. But basically, and I think coming back to the point is that the powers that be in Zimbabwe have used this as a way to keep the people divided, so that they can continue to capitalize on.
It was quite an easy way. It was kind of an easy way to divide people by language because it's quite an obvious difference.
Right.
I'd say.
I just looked up. The Shona population is 70% of the population.
Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah.
The Ndebele is 20%. And the remaining 10% is like a mix of
very different ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a 72.
But you mentioned me that your parents are from two different tribes, right?
Yeah. So my dad's family, were like in the Shona speaking part of the country, like a couple of. So like I think his grandfather, so my father's grandfather was like the chief in this village because it's still Zimbabwe. So like, once you move out from the bigger towns or cities, you move into the rural areas and it's mostly like little clusters of places and stuff like super primitive.
Is a chief kind of like a mayor? Or do they get elected, or is it just like?
So it's kind of like the community. So you'll have like a bunch of homesteads, like little huts together. Because so like this is like rural, like no running water, like maybe some pump or something there, but like no electricity and stuff. So just like huts that they've built, they've got a few animals and things. So there'll be a few of them which are in a certain region. And I mean, so this was, I guess, then like in the 30s like way back then. And then he died under suspicious circumstances, and then his son, who is my father's father, also. So we go like the great grandfather. So like one generation higher. Like another one died also under suspicious circumstances. So then my dad's grandfather, who was next in line to be the thing, because his brother and his father had died. So he's just like, nope, I don't want to be here. So he ran away from the village and moved to Bulawayo, the Ndebele part. And then they changed their surname to an Ndebele surname, which is Mube. Which is what I have, and so then like since then he was living and growing up in the south, and my mom's family, they're from Macska land, like so they're in Ndebele. Her surname is Ndlovu. And actually, I have a relative who is German, actually, Meish. He came in the early 1900s on like some boat to like come and farm in Zimbabwe and hooked up with, I guess, like a great grandmother.
How did you figure it out?
How do you know that?
So my grandmother, I remember she had some like photos, like old photos of this relative, and there was like this like one white guy.
Who's this German dude?
Yeah, and so we always be like, who is that guy? And I think she also still had the, like, it wasn't her surname, but like it was, the middle name was Meish.
Oh, yeah. That's why the palm of your hand is white. Probably.
Every black person's palm is white.
Right.
Done it.
Sorry. That's the farthest we're gonna go.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I have an even worse joke, but I'll keep it to myself.
You want?
I have an even worse one, but I'll keep it to myself.
Oh. Yeah, let's not go there.
Yeah, so you grew up in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, so I grew up in Zimbabwe.
Sorry, let's stay just quickly to the history. Some question popped in my mind.
Yeah.
Like during when the English came,
Yep.
did it unite a bit more the nation, or were the borders more or less the same? I just want to ask if it happened like this badly.
So I think when they arrived, the people were still scattered enough that we weren't bothering each other.
Okay.
But then as the
country became more centralized.
Exactly, and all of that, and then like it established the capital and like the smaller towns of Asia. Then people more gravitated towards those areas, and then I think that's where it started to come. And then even like once the British gave up like power in Zimbabwe and it was taken over by the locals, then I think that was probably even perpetuated more. And I mean, like I can see it how maybe in the 80s you'd have like the 70% majority being like, okay, yeah, of course we're going to be the ones who are going to rule here. Like, why do you guys have a say? And I think that still is a little bit of a mentality now, although, I mean, there's literally no difference.
And the capital is also located in this.
Yes, so the capital is in this like Shona hub.
These people are like, they are socialized like this, that they are kind of just mixing with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, you also do like find like people like my parents who also like cross the divide, and then there's also all of the other smaller language groups and stuff. But somehow everybody still manages to speak Shona. Even in Bulawayo, when you go into a shop or the police stop you or you're going to fill your car, like, very often like they will initiate it with Shona. And like my mom and myself as well, like, like I insist, I'm just like, sorry, I don't speak that language. Ngikhuluma isiNdebele. Ngikhuluma lawe. And then they'll be like, no. And then we go into English. But I'm just like, no, I don't need to learn Shona.
But English, everyone speaks English, basically.
So schools, newspapers, television, radio, all of that was English. So I think after our independence, like, that system continued to the point where we had like a very, very good education system. I think we used to be one of the highest countries, like with a 90-something literacy rate. 90-something%. We also used to be big exporter, like we were called the breadbasket of Africa, because we used to export so many different foods and vegetables. Like we have a lot of mines, gold, diamonds, some platinum, zinc, nickel. Like, I mean, there's so many like positives like for that country. And so there was a heyday period. And like, I mean, I even experienced that a little bit in my, like I would say probably until maybe the early teens, like we had like a super comfortable life. Like both my parents had good jobs, like they'd worked hard. My dad was the editor at the local newspaper, and my mom was like she worked at the local brewing company as like a executive secretary. So like they did well for themselves. We lived in a nicer part of the of Bulawayo, like in a bigger apartment, things like that, and had cool things growing up, like Walkmans and like not a Super NES, but like a Chinese knockoff version, but we still played all the games. And then in 1998 we got satellite television, and like I remember watching MTV for the first time and like seeing, I think
you probably even watched Friends.
No, Friends wasn't on back then, but I remember MTV, like it was Mandy Moore had just released some song because it was playing all of the time, and All Saints and Spice Girls. So I remember those were some of the like things that were like really current. Or and not Spice Girls, but like Bryan Adams and Mel C, that like When You're Gone song. So that was, so I mean, it was great. And then, I mean, the economy of the country, I guess I was too young to be aware and realize like that this was happening. But when I look back and like think, okay, like they announced these things and those things happened, like you can see, okay, there were some issues. The economy was starting to tank, mostly due to corruption, because they had all of this money, but like the government people had very, very holy pockets, or whatever. Like they just, like the money just seemed to disappear as soon as it goes into a pocket.
The sticky hands.
Sticky hands, exactly. And then it began with the war veterans, who are like the guys who fought in the struggle for independence, were allowed to claim, like I think at that time it was 2,000 Zimbabwe dollars, which was a significant amount of money. Like I can't exactly remember the actual value at the time, but I would say like it was maybe like, 400 or 500 francs worth, like a decent chunk of cash. And they could just like come and claim it because they fought in the war. But this system turned out to be so insanely corrupt because then people who were born after 1980, so like born after the independence, so not even like a baby, but like born, were being able to claim these things. And then it like ended in like, like a bunch of banks defaulted, like they didn't have enough money. And so then the government was just like, okay, well, since we can't guarantee you this, we're going to let you guys go and take over white-owned farms, like resettle them. And so that was like the big thing that the whole Western world was just like, oh fuck, what's going on here, and brought all of the sanctions and got us kicked out of the Commonwealth, and like the big spat between Tony Blair and Mugabe was over this decision. And yeah, then because we were a producing country, like we had tobacco, we had farms, we had citrus, like there was just like so much. But because it's farms. Hello. Pascal just walked in.
Our beer just arrived.
Yay. Right.
Drink a beer. Oh.
No problem. So backtrack a little bit so you guys can edit that out.
No, we'll keep that in.
All right. I think it's time for a break because I think I forgot to feed the cats. And before they murder us while we are having fun here. We'll come back in a minute and we're going to go on. And we're going to talk to Wayne that this is our radio show or podcast, so he has to stop talking. It's not one of his classes.
We'll be back after these messages.
Hello.
All right, guys.
We're back.
So we just fed the cat. cats.
We just fed the
It's
cat.
not a euphemism for something. They literally gave the cats food.
Could be something. Wow.
The pussies ate.
And we came up with a really good band name because my dog who passed away last year was called
Daddy. Yeah.
Teddy, and the Teddy and the Cats was the
If I start a band, I'm going to use that name if it's okay.
Or a second podcast.
Only need to
Or
get
a
2
second
cats.
Yeah. 2 cool cats.
Teddy and the kitty cats.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue where we left off. So you grew up in Zimbabwe.
Yep.
You went to high school there? And
Primary school, high school, all in Zimbabwe. I finished high school in 2000. And then I had like a couple of gap years. So the first year, I just did some computer courses because I was like, okay, I don't know what I want to do. Like, let's do something. And then the second year, like, I got radicalized in religion, and so I joined the church, and I worked at the church for that year as an intern. So a little bit of
Which church
history.
was that?
Catholic?
Baptist, yeah. So Zimbabwe is a very conservative and very religious country. So there's multiple denominations, like, there's Seventh-day Adventists, there's Baptist, there's Anglican, there's Catholic, there's like all kinds of evangelical, Pentecostal, blah, 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 blah. So there's a whole bunch of different sects that exist there. And African people are just really good at church. Like, they love to sing. They like give so much heart and life into it. Like, it's a real community within those spaces. But ultimately, like, the overarching thing there is that it's driven by these other powers who have other motives and stuff. But so I grew up within that, and was like in it for quite a while. Taught Sunday school, was a youth leader, like went on different camps and things like that. Played in the church band for a couple of years and so. But there's only so many gay bashing sermons that you can listen to before you're like, oh, okay, maybe this is not for me.
This is not the place.
And I remember opening up to a pastor. So like the pastor is like the head of the church, like one in Zimbabwe and then one when I was at university in South Africa. And both times they were just like, well, this is something you're going to have to fight for the rest of your life. And I just couldn't accept that. And then at the same time, I always, like, my biggest question always with the religion, and I posed it this way a couple of times, it's just like, okay, so you say that the only people who get into heaven are the ones who accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. So what happens if you're like, some smaller island that, like, in the middle of the Pacific, like they've never seen like any white man or books or anything like that? You're telling me that they are all going to be born and die and go to hell because somebody didn't come and tell them about this person? And like there was always varying responses to that, of like, they would have found it eventually, or blah 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 blah. But like this, like I could not understand that just because you didn't know about this guy and do this process with him, that like you were excluded from that. And so that was always in the back of the head. And then the gay thing coming up, and so eventually at some point I was like, I don't agree with this, and so stepped away from that. But
it's funny, when I was a kid I was thinking about this a lot, and I also asked these questions and no one really could answer. I've been not in a really religious family, but when there was a phase when my parents brought me to some sort of a church, which I'm not going to mention now. I was also asking these kind of things when they said like only if you go like, and also they all think that their way is the right way. So I'm like, it's gonna be quite boring there if it's just this few hundred people will get there to heaven, because all the others just they interpreted something differently from the same fucking Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like the words are pretty much the same, but they find these ways to separate themselves. But yeah, so there was that gap year, which my dad was not happy about. My mom was living in the UK at the time, but like she was kind of supportive with it. But yeah, and then the next year
with being gay or with
this gap year in the church.
Do you still consider yourself religious?
So it's my understanding of it has evolved to a certain degree. Like I remember reading this book where there was these philosophical conversations talking about this tendency towards complexity, where life is moving to a more complex state of being. And so on the smallest level, you can talk about it in terms of like, how we evolved from single cell organisms into the diversity that we have now. But then also when you look at it more in a metaphorical sense, everything that goes in the flow could be interpreted as good. Everything that goes against the flow could be interpreted as bad. And that ultimate state of being that everything is moving towards is like what we define as God or whatever. And when you boil down all of the religions that I have read about and informed myself about, ultimately they all have this same kind of context to it. And so for me, I believe that they're like, as human beings, we have this inherent desire to know about that thing, and like it comes in different ways from dependent where you are in the world. But to say that like I call it God or so, I wouldn't say it's that. Like I think there is a power out there, like it has a vested interest in like our paths and where we go, and sometimes directs us, sometimes protects us, all these sorts of things. But I wouldn't call myself a religious person where I think like reading this book or following that specific thing is how I commune or come closer to that.
Okay, straight to hell.
That's right.
So you had this gap here with this religious kind of
experience.
Let's say that.
Yeah.
And after that, what happened?
And then the next year, so my sister had finished high school in that year that I did the gap year. So we both went to university together. So we started in the same year in South Africa at a place called Rhodes University, which is in a small town called Grahamstown.
Why did you go to South Africa for university?
So Zimbabwe was in the full throes of its economic downfall, and it's like the universities there, either the students were striking because they were not getting the funds that they were promised, or the lecturers were striking because they weren't getting paid. And so like there wasn't really a good reputation for tertiary education institutions in Zimbabwe. So like the next option was South Africa, and there was a few universities which had like University of Cape Town, University of Johannesburg, University of Pretoria, Stellenbosch, and Rhodes, which students would be saying. I remember in my final year at high school, there was a couple of talks where former alumni who were studying in South Africa came and were telling us about like, oh, there's this place and there's that place. And I just remember the guy who talked about Rhodes was like super convincing. And so my brother went, so he's 2 years older than me. And so he went first. And then after 2 years, me and my sister both joined, and we started there in 2003.
So this was, at that time, this was a common thing that people went to university to South Africa.
If you had the means, then you would go to South Africa or somewhere further abroad. And we were able to do that because my mom moved to the UK. And so she lived there for 9 years. And that's basically how we managed to get through university without debt or anything like that.
And your mom, did she move there specifically to get a job, or did she already have a job?
So it was specific.
Did your father ever consider moving there, or were your entire family kind of considering moving there?
So at the time of the economic downfall in Zimbabwe, and because of like the relationship with the UK, there was a lot of people who had been there already, and then like it became this thing. Zimbabwe is going to shit, so but you can go and do nursing or do this in the UK. And at first they were like quite welcoming of it, but then the deluge just became like too much. So I remember when my mom went over, you didn't need a visa, and even when I visited her once before I started at university, I went to go visit her, and I remember I didn't need to get a visa there. It was just you arrive at the airport, you get questioned, and then you get through. and so many families were doing this, because then one would stay at home with the kids, and then one would go to work overseas, and in many cases it was the wives, it was the mothers, because it was like a lot of carer and nursing sort of positions. So this is 2000, so still pretty misogynistic world. So it was this weird thing of then how all the women who were seen as the homemakers into the traditional sense of the Zimbabwe family were the ones who then were now going out and like doing what they needed to do. And often cases, the husbands were left at home drinking that earnings away, fucking wives and fucking girlfriends and while the mothers are slaving away, working crazy conditions and hours and stuff just to support that family. Yeah.
So you never considered moving to the UK before the university times. So it was clear that you go to university in South Africa, and once you graduate from there, maybe you will look around.
Yeah, so I think I wasn't even thinking further than, okay, I'm going to university, because to go to university in the UK, I think it would have been a much higher cost.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I think it was affordable for the most part for my mom to send us there, and it was close by, so it wasn't too far from home. It wasn't a big mission to get there. Yeah.
And what did you study?
I started out doing computer science, and after a year realized that I don't want to sit behind a computer. And then I did a business degree, so it's called a Bachelor of Commerce, and my majors were information systems and economics. Finished that and didn't want to become an intern in some finance company. And as I mentioned, I'd been doing all of this stuff with kids, like with the church and stuff. Then even before I turned to teaching, I was also working at a school at the university, coaching sports and looking after the kids who were in the boarding house. And so my mom kind of threw it out there and was just like, well, if you want to keep on studying, why don't you look at teaching? And I was like, okay. And started that course, and haven't looked back since. It was the best decision I ever made.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. No, it was, definitely. I'm one of those lucky people who can say I've sort of found that thing that I am good at and that I enjoy doing.
And what kind of differences did you see between South Africa and Zimbabwe, in terms of, I don't know, the attitude of people? You said conservativeness, religiousness, and so on and so on.
I mean, in many ways, there was many similarities, and also at our university, there was a decent population of Zimbabweans, both white and black Zimbabweans, but also from other parts of Southern Africa, so there wasn't that any kind of culture shock, it just felt like a wealthier version of Zimbabwe.
Okay.
The shops actually had decent stuff in them, and the streets were nice. And people seem to have jobs which earned them something. But what I do really remember becoming confronted with in that way was racism, because Zimbabwe, so I was born in 82. Zimbabwe had its independence in the 80s, in 1980. And so I grew up in a already integrated society. And I mean, South Africa's history is is much more strong and painful. but we, even in my high school, like, you know, it was a quite a mixed demographic of people. And yes, we would gravitate towards, like, you know, the white guys would mostly hang out with the white guys and the black guys would mostly hang out with the black guys, but not in a set, like we still all played sports together. We were in the same classes together. Like, you know, it was, there was that mixing. And I mean, we'd even have these race wars, which we would do, like, but like, it sounds bad, but, you know, yes, we would gravitate into those groups. So like, there'd be the colored people and the black people and the Indians and the white guys. And then you'd all be pranking the different groups, right? So like, it was a playful kind of fun, like, you know, not any sort of, like, you know, racist connotations. And then I arrive in South Africa, and then like, you really like see people being like full on racist to your face. And I was just like, oh fuck, okay, this is what they're talking about.
It worked actually both ways. So also the black part of the society was also racist, or they had some.
Yes, yeah. In it, you could see that both sides were having a certain feeling about the other one and perpetuating that. So, like, the black people would see themselves as the victims, and like the white guys were the bad ones, and and then the white people would be like, oh, you can't trust those black guys, they're thieves, they're this, they're that, and the other, right? And so it's coming from, like, I think there's like a very strong hurt that still exists within South Africa, because apartheid was like a very efficient system, and like the generations are still going to be impacted by that for a while. And so like, that's how I piece it together now when I look back and reflect and think about what that difference meant, because in Zimbabwe, like we'd sort of moved past that, and there was like a peaceful transition of power mostly, and so yeah, there wasn't like this big upheaval or civil struggle which, like, you know, impacted the huge population.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Like, I think in South Africa there are more white people than in Zimbabwe, right?
Yes, yeah. There's definitely a bigger white population in South Africa compared
Especially
to Zimbabwe.
Cities. Yes.
Yep. So I think that was probably the main big difference that like I was confronted with. But like the other parts were like just so in common. Like, we watched the same shows, like we listened to the same music, like, you know, it was the same kind of climate, same kind of vibes. Discovered we didn't have ocean, but like, you know, we have lots of lakes and rivers and things like that. So yeah.
So all in all, very similar but more racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fun.
I mean, but then you move into the bit, like the wider, more like the cities, you know, that's where you're less confronted with it. There was like much more integration that's happening there. And the university I went to was also quite a progressive one. Like, I think even during the apartheid times, like it had like a lot of people who were, you know, publicly standing up to that injustice. So like it had a big reputation. There was a huge festival that arts festival that would happen there, like in the winter holidays. There was some decent, like, because schoolboy rugby is big in South Africa, and like the town where the university was had some of the quite competitive schools within that. So there was some stuff there. Like, it wasn't, you know, all, I mean, yes, parts of it's like still like, you know, carry that like colonial shadow, but it wasn't really like a racist place. Mm-hmm. You move into the smaller towns and villages, it's a different story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then in the university, it was like totally separate. You were like separated, like not even talking to each other with the local white people, or what was it like the everyday?
I mean, at the university, it was just like any university campus. It was just like a whole bunch of students there. Like, I mean, there was the part of the town where you had the university, and then there was like the people who lived there. And just like with many South African bigger towns and stuff, you have like the low income, like high density suburbs. Like, and that's where most of like the black and colored locals would live in those areas. Yeah, and so like more affluent people would then be in the inner city limits. But on the campus, it was like a different story, because like everyone was coming from different places. You know, there's people on sponsorships as well as trust fund babies. But like we're all there and mixing in the lectures. There wasn't any kind of separations that you really felt. And again, because of all the like community kind of things, like with sports and stuff, you just find people mixing all of the time.
So after, like you said that you've had this experience that with the church times, that's being gay, and then the struggles of accepting that and working with that and so on. So have you had a different kind of experience, or did this change, or did you change, or how was this part of your life or experience after you went to university?
Going to university, in terms of like my gay awakening, was like very much a catalyst, because Zimbabwe is one of the, I think it's pretty much South Africa, which doesn't have any sort of criminal charge or offense for homosexuality. Everywhere else has different things ranging from fines to imprisonment or death sentences. So yeah, like growing up in Zimbabwe, like I kind of knew early-ish on that I was a little bit different, but didn't really have many outlets. Eventually managed to have small conversations with people, but then it was always something that was like kind of secret and hidden. And then at university, I remember, then you have the internet, and I discovered Gaydar, I think it was, back in the day.
Romeo.
And, no, not Romeo. It was like even before. It was even before like Romeo. It's like one of these. But started meeting people there, and then at some point I remember. Actually, I was outed because like I told like my closest group of friends, and they were just like, yeah, we've known for a while. We're just like waiting for you to tell us. But everybody else also knows because we told them.
No,
I mean, but like from this close group, and I remember one very funny interaction with my sister where she texted me and she was just like, did you come out? And then I was like, okay, no, I'm not going out tonight. I've got some stuff to do tomorrow, lectures, but maybe I can meet you. And then she's like, no, you idiot, did you come out as gay? Because I heard from blah, 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 blah. I was like, sorry. But yeah.
Okay. But your sister knew.
I'm sure she did. I'm pretty sure she knew early on.
Okay. But you haven't talked about this with her.
No.
So
no.
For her, it was also like, she knew it, but this was the first confirmation from another person that she heard it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we never got into the details of like where she heard it from, or who she heard it from, but like she was just probably the most supportive person in my family, from hearing that news. And we were super, super close as well. I mean, she passed away 14 years ago, sadly, but it was nice to have a sibling who reacted to that aspect of me the way that she did, because the other family reactions were pretty awful.
Yeah, I can confirm that.
Yeah.
So it was more or less the same for me. But was it a little bit of a drive actually to go to South Africa, or?
No, the drive for South Africa was more just to be able to get like a decent education so I could set myself up. I think at that stage, when I first went to South Africa, I was still like fully happy clappy in the church. So knew the side of me, but didn't think that it was going to matter there. And then I moved to South Africa to like the super open university, which even had a gays and lesbians society club there. And they threw the best campus parties. Like everyone would go to these, whether you were like part of the community or not, but like they used to have the best campus parties.
Inclusion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a thing which is keep coming back. I have a friend who left Hungary quite in early years, and then with his mom, and then they went to the States. And that time, so the only way he could get to the medical university was to join the army, and so he was away a lot. And always is. It was like they were like some container houses or barracks, and he said he also like managed to get some a disco ball and stuff like this. And that time, I think it's still like this. They had this "don't ask, don't tell" policy. And he threw always this big, he called them gay parties, but so all the people were like partying in his container under the lights and the disco ball. So yeah, it's kind of a thing apparently that.
Apparently gays know how to party well.
Yeah. So you basically you stayed there after university, right? After you finished, you've been.
Yeah. So when I finished my studies, then I went and I worked at a hostel, backpackers, which was in a town close to where I went to university because I discovered it during some holidays. My sister also used to work there, and so I just showed up and I was like, "Hey, I don't have a plan yet. Can I hang out for 6 months while I figure my shit out?" And then 6 months turned into 2 years. But yeah, it was a super wonderful life on the beach, working in the bar, chilling during the day, meeting all kinds of tourists. I did go through my bi era then because there weren't too many gay tourists like moving around South Africa. I did hook up with a couple of guys in the time there, but definitely was more interest from the crazy European girls when they see the chocolate meat. But eventually then I met my ex-partner there at this backpackers, and that's how I ended up moving to Switzerland.
Yeah, but it's been like one of the best 2 years of your life, I think, because like I remember you've been telling a lot of stories from this era.
Definitely. There was, just the combination, the people who were working at the same time, like there was a group of about 4 of us, and we just gelled really, really well. And it was during the height of the tourism backpacker boom in South Africa, so there was a lot of people coming through, and it was like the World Cup happened, I think 2010. That was when they had the World Cup in South Africa, and that was also, it was during that period of time, so it was like a very exciting, vibey,
waka waka.
Yeah, right. and as a guy who's just finished university, and then you land up somewhere, like I wasn't saving anything, but I wasn't spending anything, and you just like living the dream. I was like okay.
Floating, yeah.
Yeah, I'll stay here. But it definitely was a bubble which I was ready to escape. There's only so many times because I work the bar, and then sometimes you'd have these guests who come European or American and be like, "Oh, okay, are you also one of the guys from the area here? So cool that you work at the backpackers." I'm like, "No, actually, I have 2 degrees and I'm just here because I don't want to face reality." But
I'm just chilling.
Yeah. Or then, "Oh, your English is really, really good for a black guy." I'm just like, "Yes, it's my first language." Yeah. So I mean, enough of those times, where I was just like, "Okay, no, I need to go and do something proper now." Use all of this brain that I've been given. But yeah, it was timed nicely because then I met my ex around the time then I was thinking of leaving, and then it was going really well, and he generously said, "Hey, why don't you move to Switzerland?" I was like, "You're crazy, motherfucker. I've got a Zimbabwe passport." He's like, no, we'll make it work. And so, yeah, we made it work. And then I came over. I was here for 3 months and then had to decide, okay, do I want to stay? And if I want to stay, we have to get married now. So I was just like, okay, let's get married. And then, yeah, we got married. And then 7 years later, we split.
7 years?
Yeah, 7 years.
Yeah, but that's already something.
I mean, it's like it was.
By law, you only have to stay together for 5 years.
So I surpassed that.
You did two bonus years.
I mean, maybe there might have been a slight motivation on my part to stay even in an unhappy. I think we were both unhappy by the time we split, right? It was kind of mutual, but mutual on his time. But I think I probably tried harder to keep it going because I didn't want to, first of all, not fulfill that time. But then also, I didn't want people to think that I was one of those guys who uses somebody to just get his papers and get into the country, and then you run away from them.
I was walking the same shoes by the time I came here, and it's like always, I don't know, it makes me feel like I didn't have anything like this in my head. I was not even thinking to move to Switzerland back in the time when I did. But still, whenever I tell anyone the story to anyone, I always feel like this, that I have to explain myself, or I have to feel ashamed that, there was this German guy already living here, and then we met in Budapest, and we then started this long distance relationship, and then but it was basically he initiated to for me to move here. I was just the really good path on my career in Budapest at that time. And but still, and it was a lot of struggle to get back to more or less the same level, or to get some job which I actually enjoy to do, or a position within the job. And I still feel like now, less and less, I don't feel ashamed for it. I mean, again, it was his idea, and but I always feel like I have to explain myself because of that.
But it's true. I mean, and I think that stems from the fact that, like, there is a reason why when somebody says, "Hey, come to Switzerland," where you're like, "Oh, okay, that would be a good opportunity." Like, it's like a step up for you, but that is not the driving factor. It's just like a nice additional bonus to something that is already there.
It did cause in the relationship some kind of
imbalance
of power.
In the beginning, yes. So before I started working, like I really felt like demasculated, because
I mean, you're financially dependent on him.
exactly
And not just financially,
like everything dependent, and didn't know the language, didn't know anything. Like, his family only spoke barely snippets of like English words, so it was like thrust into this, which was hard. I mean, the first few years here were like quite a struggle, but I think luckily I did all my studies and things before coming here. So, and being a teacher, like, there's the international school market, so within a year, like, I was able to find something, and like, have been able to continually work, and to this point now where I am now nationalized and have the Swiss passport as well as the Zimbabwean. But
I have somewhere a button for this case. Yeah, this one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ich bin jetzt eine Schweizer.
Yeah. How were the parents actually towards you?
They were really warm and open. Like, they welcomed me in. He did say that before, when he had talked about me and he had his plans, like they were like a little bit unsure about it. But I think, as with anybody, once they meet me and I start talking to them, like, you realize, he's just like a really nice person. Like, so we don't need to worry about him.
Yeah. You're also like sort of intelligent and stuff. So
exactly,
sort of.
Like, I'm extremely intelligent. Shall we have another lesson on my intelligence? So, point one. No jokes.
Like, I mean, it was for sure difficult for you because of the dependence reasons with your partner. But what else? What other difficulties have you faced? What year did you move here?
I moved in 2011.
2011. Okay.
Yeah.
So, how difficult was it? Like, it's a completely different culture. It's almost exclusively white people living here. The language is different. The culture is very much different.
So, like, in the aspect of being around like white people, like, that wasn't such a big thing, because even at university and at the backpackers and stuff, I gravitated more to white people, because I think in many ways there was more I found that we had in common, and probably also just how the African culture doesn't really accept gayness, but like, I didn't feel that like kind of separation, like when I was around like my non-black friends, like that I would get that judgment. So I think just over time, like, I started spending much more time like around white people, and so coming out here, it wasn't any, like, I'm used to being like one of the only dark skinned people around. Like, it doesn't faze me, and but it was the culture shock. You hear that word and you're like, yeah, okay, culture shock exists, and yep, you move to a place, and of course it's going to be different. But God, it was like a slap in the face. Like just like from figuring out the bin bags to like all of these like unwritten specific rules of how you're supposed to do things and how you're not supposed to do things, and then how people are and how you have to learn to go with how they are, even though it doesn't make sense. And but then everything works and everything is perfect, and you're just like, okay, but I love how perfect it is. But then there's like the mentality, like the weather. I mean, I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to learn how to ski, because now winter is a different time of year. Like, because then I can think, okay, I can go up, not every weekend, but like you can find those times where you can get up into the mountains and do something. But yeah, those were I would say the most difficult aspects. And then like the big one is just the socializing, because I lived in Bern with my ex for the first 7 years, and it's the capital, but it's a village. And it was, aside from the people that I worked with at the international school there, I really didn't make any other inroads or connections. And then neither did my ex, because he had all of his friends in Lucerne, and so he would prefer to go there than like make new friends. So like for both of us, like we always just like kind of felt spare and burn. And yeah, but Zurich is a much more open place in terms of that. But yeah, those were the biggest factors.
Yeah, you can find friends on the street.
Yeah, you can literally find them anywhere if you play the right song.
Yeah, I don't know what the people are gonna think about me, and it's a really central thought of Hungarian society most of the time, like what people are gonna think. Because for those who only listen to the English episodes, will be kind of funny, or I don't know, like what their whatever. Yeah, I've got this lifestyle because I told the guys how I met Zsenya, which was in front of a bar.
So you want to hear how he met me?
Yeah, well, they go on.
No, you tell the story. You tell it so much better.
No, but what was it? I mean, it's basically the same story. If you listen to the episode with Zsenya, you know what happened there. I mean, we were just talking in front of a bar, or a bar. I mean, you were there with your friends, and I was also there, and I just went out for a smoke. And we're talking about it because I hijacked the jukebox and just filled it with Britney Spears and
because somebody put money and then they left all the, and so you had like all these
put the money
songs.
in, but they don't get how it works. So usually there's a lot of credit in it, and if you figure out how it works, because it's a bit really complicated how to give in the code and whatever, because it's an old jukebox. And yeah, I hacked the system, and we were outside, and you made this kind of remark like,
that the music inside is so cool. Like there's like all these cool Britney Spears songs.
And I was like, yeah, it's me. I put it in, and instantly we started to.
The rest was history.
Talk, and ended up after at my place, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Continued a few drinks, and then
you had like I don't know how many people there, like 5, 6, something like that.
I think it was like around 6 people there. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But they were like even random people.
Yeah.
Like
we literally picked up some random.
Who's this guy? Like, I thought it's your friend. No, I thought it's your friend. Like,
he just like showed up with the crew. Man, I remember that. That was funny. That was funny.
Yeah. It was good days.
Indeed.
But yeah, so whoever tells me that you cannot make friends in Switzerland is just, you're not trying hard enough. You're not paying enough Britney. That's one of the two.
I think like for me, like one of the like keys to figuring and understanding how life here is and being happy is to stay open, because like when you come and it's different and you try, you close yourself off because you keep getting rejected and you're like, why is this happening? And then your mindset changes and then you're like, I hate it. Everybody here is so cold and mean and stuff. But then when you don't close off and you just keep trying, eventually you'll open up and find those people who also find you because you're not so stressed about like trying to fit in, like you're just existing.
Yeah, but if you're trying like too hard, then it also doesn't play out well.
Desperation doesn't smell great.
No, that smells like sweat, more or less, in a good way. But this is a topic which is keep coming back. I mean, Reddit is full with posts and questions, and like I'm living here since 3 years. I'm living here since 5 years. My colleagues are jerks, but I don't know any other place to hang out. Or the colleagues are like just not trying to make friends, or they are like doing their job. I go home and I have to make friends, and then I'm like always like, I've been quite alone when I broke up with my first partner here, and I only had those people I knew from work, which they were fun people. When I used to work in this restaurant, fun. They were fun people, but it's hard to. So that was a moment where I felt sort of alone, or at a certain point you just have enough of your work colleagues because mostly you just talk about work.
And
and
you can't just stay with the work colleagues. That is not how you're going to do it. You have to find those other outlets where it has to be something that you like. So whether it's sports or whether it's parties or going for a drink or something like that, concerts or so, like when you engage with the things that are out there, like you meet the people. It's just you have to try.
Yeah, but I think it's maybe some of the cases it's actually that people who say that they are maybe introverted or they're too shy to talk to people, because I hear the same stories. Actually, I read the same stories in Hungarian Reddit from Hungarian people. So,
but the thing is, like, if you check who is the ones that are posting on Reddit, like, it's not going to be the extroverted people. It's not going to be the ones that are talkative. It's always the people who are more introverted or more like online or autistic.
And then that is a much more difficult process for them.
I wouldn't go that far with it, but what I'm saying is it's easy to blame the country than actually check if what I did or how I did.
Yeah.
Because there are like so many ways. Okay, you don't always have to collect the leftover from the street in front of the bar like I do, but there are like so many other ways to do. You can go you can go play board games or
but you know, a lot of times the language is a big thing.
Yeah,
like when you do speak the local language, of course it's relatively easier.
I mean, in Zurich, I think like 20% of the population is not even from here.
Donnie, it matters.
But I think
it does matter.
Yeah.
It's way more difficult to mingle and make friends with someone that has a group of friends that's German or Swiss German speaking, because they are not going to mix you with them if you don't speak their language.
That, but what I'm saying is that there are so many other foreigners here that don't tell me that the only way to make friends is to make Swiss friends.
I think if you're an introvert, like you, like that's a good way to do it. Is like learn the language and then try to engage with the local people. Because I mean, I have a French friend. He's been here for almost 10 years and he speaks barely a lick of German. And he works for one of the big banks here. Just
okay.
Like, how does that happen? How does he manage to do that? But like, he's like, he goes to meetings and they all speak German and he just nods his head. But
then reads the minutes.
Yeah. So there's people who can and don't need to. But I think learning the language is one of the real keys in terms of finding your way into feeling comfortable.
It's a major part, yeah. I mean, a lot of the foreign students as well in Hungary, they are complaining about this, that even if they make quote-unquote friends or acquaintances in Hungary who are Hungarian, they usually don't invite them to to meet with their friends, because then everyone is forced to speak English, and there are people who are not comfortable speaking English. And then, I don't know, at some point there will be points wherein the conversation goes into only Hungarian, and then this person is just sitting there and like, well, what the fuck should I do? So yeah, I've heard and I've seen a lot of foreigners also complaining about this in Hungary, and that's why they don't necessarily have groups of friends that are Hungarian, but just a few select friends who they meet from time to time.
I think it's also really a matter of luck, especially nowadays in Hungary, like our generation and younger, they speak at a certain level of English. And my cousin's husband, he's from England. And for example, he was actually complaining about the opposite, that he like not now, because he understands like more or less in Hungarian, and he can also speak. But in the beginning, he said it's been so slow because every time he met someone, the Hungarian, and he was keen to learn the language, but everyone wanted to exercise his English with him.
I also get that quite a lot. So like where people they like where I'm like, oh no, but like I want to practice my German. He's like, no, but I want to practice my English. Like, can we stay in English? I never get anyone to speak English to. And I'm like, okay, fine. If I don't have to use German, then I will suffer through it.
Yeah, but there is like something called tandem, but probably that's not a way of making friends. It's more like just something. But I heard people doing this.
Well, one of my really good friends, he's moved back to Germany, but like we met through a tandem thing. I think I found him on a forum, and then we had like met up a couple of times and just really got on, and then we started just hanging out to hang out with each other, and then the tandem like was coming through, and it would always be, the conversation would go sometimes into English, sometimes into German, like it would always be a mix.
Just those who are not familiar with this practice, or I don't know, it's just basically you find someone, usually online, and you're interested in the person's mother tongue or the language he speaks, and he's interested in yours, so you just sit down together and talk about everyday stuff, like for 1 hour in your language, and then you change to his language. Basically, that's what it's like, a way to learn language or to learn the real,
conversational level of like whatever the two tandem languages are.
Mm.
All right. And is there something we are, I think, heading towards the end? Victor, you have something? I have one last question.
Go for it.
No, not that one. We said we never had.
I do. I do.
Why are you gay? I'm sorry,
If you're going to ask me to choose between Beyonce and Britney, this conversation
should I call
is
you
over.
Mister?
So the one last question to you: is there anything you're missing from home, from Zimbabwe, let's say? And like, how often you travel back? Is it enough, or
do you still have family back there?
Yes, so I have my older brother, he lives in Cape Town in South Africa, and my mom is still in Bulawayo in Zimbabwe, and I try to visit her every 1 or 2 years. Of late it's been like once a year that I go over, and I mean, it's always nice going back. Like, I think it will continue to be, for me, whether I'm going to South Africa or whether I'm going to Zimbabwe, like both feel like going back home, because like I said, there's so many similarities in terms of them. Whereas Zimbabwe is more for the family obligation, and then South Africa is for the friend obligation. So it's nice to be there, like the weather. Like it's weather that I understand and makes sense. I can see clouds and be like, oh, those clouds mean rain, and those clouds don't. Whereas here, you'll be like, oh, it's not going to rain today. Those clouds, oh wait, I have to check the app because it started raining.
Yeah. It's always like you look outside and like, oh, let me check the app.
Yeah, you have to make sure.
I don't know.
There's certain food. I miss the braai culture. So braai is like a grill. And Southern Africans love to braai. And when we braai, there's just tons and tons and tons of meat. It's probably not healthy, but it's amazing. And you usually do it over like a wood or coal fire, so it's a process. It's not just like flip a gas switch, cook some pieces of meat and then like put them on the plate and we eat. No, it's like you have to get the fire going, you light it, you wait until the coals are ready, you cook the things which need the super hot heat first, and then they're like little appetizers, and then you bring the rest of it, and then people eat, and then like it's just this constant process of eating meat and drinking beer. So I miss the spontaneity. Like I have become that way, but since moving here, it's just people are busy all the time. And in South Africa, you'll always find time. Somebody will be like, hey, you want to go for like a quick 30-minute beer somewhere, or go do this or go see that? It's like people have time. And I don't understand, like, is there a different way that time moves here and there?
Here people plan their days, weeks, months
in advance, right? Exactly. And so
it's like, oh, do you want to go a beer? Oh, the best I can do is in 3 weeks on Thursday from 7:30 to 7:45.
Yep. And sometimes you shock people when you're just like, okay, yeah, let's meet tomorrow. It's just like, what, tomorrow? I'm not ready for this. Yes, that's a part of it. I mean, there's Mazoe is an orange juice that is from Zimbabwe. Like it's also a region.
We have orange juice here.
No, but no, like this is even South Africans know that Mazoe from Zimbabwe is the best orange juice that exists. Like it's a concentrate, so it's like a syrup, but like it's like 60% oranges, and like it's really flavorful. So whenever I go home,
sugar.
I pick it up. Yeah, pretty much sugar, sugar and water, and a few preservatives. But like it's like the most orangey tasting orange juice that you can make from mixing a cordial with water. And then there's a couple of like the snacky things.
And you cannot get this here?
And not the equivalent. I mean, there's things which taste similar, but like it's
no, but I mean, there's like no African shop here.
But the thing is, most African shops here then cater to the West Central African places, and then you'll have some South African shops, but then like it's mostly South African. There's a lot which are similar, which we also have in Zimbabwe, but then there's some specific Zimbabwe ones, like this orange juice. There's a certain type of vegetable. It's kind of like a kale spinach thing. We call it mbida, but I think it's like chomolia or collard greens. It's a type of thing, and you eat that with our staple, which is a thicker version of polenta.
Okay.
So like it's a dough, and you have to eat it with your hands. You break off little bowls and you mix it with whatever relishes you have. So
what is it called?
It's called sadza. Well, sadza is the Shona word, but like it's also the standard word for it. But then in Ndebele, we call it isichwala.
Okay.
No, sorry, not istrala. Yeah.
Would you be so nice to send some pictures of this stuff you mentioned, so we can put to our for our listeners?
Yeah, sure.
On
like
Instagram?
I've got a couple from the last few times I visited home, and then my mom makes it because it's like my favorite meal. Yeah.
What is it made of?
It's like
dough?
ground maize.
Okay.
Yeah. So like you cook it like until it gets into dough consistency, and then you serve it and you have it. So that's the main starch, and then there's usually like this vegetable, this mbita, and then some kind of meat stew with tomato also. Yep. And biltong, the cured dried meat. And drivos, which is dried out sausages, like those. You can get them here, but it's not the same. It's not the same flavor. It's not the same meat. And that I come back with kilos. Please don't stop me at the airport if there's a airport controller listening, because I come back with so much of that stuff here. Yeah.
All right.
Actually, it's interesting. It's completely unrelated, but from what you said, I was just stopped by customs in Hungary at the airport when I flew back there from Zurich last week, and I was surprised. They were like, "Oh, sir, can you step to the side?"
Oh my
I was
God,
like, "What the fuck?"
That actually happens? Oh.
Yeah, I was literally like, Sure, yeah. Do you have anything to declare? And like, no. Okay, let me check your bag, please. And I'm like,
no.
But I didn't have anything, but still, it's annoying.
Well, that's what they do at borders.
Yeah, but it never happened to me. And I was running for the bus because I had 3 minutes. And if I don't make it, I miss the train back to my hometown, which is an extra hour.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like, no, let me go.
Was it in Budapest airport?
It was in Budapest airport, yeah.
They do like last time actually, because the Swiss flight arrives to the same hall as the one in Tel Aviv, and there is one from Istanbul always the same time where the Swiss flight
No.
arrives.
The guy literally asked me, are you flying in from Zurich?
And they basically took everyone out. So there was like one queue at the green one, and you all had to just go that way. And then when this whole arrival hall, or where you pick up your luggage, got so full that people couldn't move anymore, that kind of dangerous, then they let through like more 10 people.
Okay.
But then again, they stopped, and that's what they were doing. And was like, I got through like with those few people they just let out, because it was like a huge queue already, like kind of a traffic jam, or it looked like even like dangerous, because the queue were like around these carousels
like so
and
many
stuff.
people. So moral of the story is don't fly into Budapest.
Yeah. But they do also here in Zurich.
I've never had this happen anywhere. Not in Budapest, not in Zurich, nowhere.
In Zurich it happened to me already like 2-3 times.
Nowhere.
If it happens in Zimbabwe, like they're gonna try and get a bribe from you. So you can either like be adamant and fight them and say no, like, you know, we can go to the court and the police, and then you can tell them what you're doing, or you can just like make the process easy and like grease their palms with a note of some value, and then they'll be like, okay, nothing to see here, close your bags, bye sir, bye ma'am.
All right. But yeah, they do this sometimes. I mean, well, that's their job. Okay. I think we got through all the questions we wanted to talk about this time. And if you guys have other ones, please let us know. And I'm sure that Wayne is happily to come back. He felt good.
Yeah, no, this was fun. Like it was easier than I thought it was going to be, like the conversation.
For us too, actually.
Yeah, but it's also, I do enjoy sharing my story, right? Because it's like, I mean, I've had maybe a different route of getting here than like, you know, many people who come from the African continent, but like still like a interesting path of how it's come along.
Definitely.
So
thank you for sharing.
No problem. Thank you guys for being such kind and gracious podcast hosts.
Shall we tell our names again? It's going to be our new thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Wayne, for coming. And thank you, Victor, for co-hosting.
Always.
All right. I was Daniel. Like, no one wants to mention my name. Yeah. Goodbye, guys.
No.
Don't forget to come to our Telegram channel and subscribe or whatever you listen, and click on the bell. And
follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us.
Listen
to us.
Un salagatle, which means stay well in Ndebele.
Nice.
Good night.
There's not much else to say. Bye, guys.
Sziasztok.